We are running. Oh, hey, look at me. Big lunch. So much for losing weight, right? All right. Potato number one here, back with this little doohickey. So little. A couple of discussions on the Creality forum on Facebook, and it's come to my attention that this V2, V3 printer has a couple of problems with it that is shared not just amongst the noobs, but from some of us who have a little bit more experience with it as well. So it seems to be that there are a couple of flaws with this overall design, and I'm going to go over with you specifically ones involving the Titan. The Titan E3D direct drive attachment for the Creality CR10 version 2 and version 3. This one was specifically a version 2 initially. And if you want to know what the difference is between a version 2 and a version 3, in its simplest form, the version 2 did not have the Titan direct drive. When you get the Titan direct drive, it attaches right on the top here. It is a very easy modification to do once you purchase it. But these arms right here are way too close, and this bumps into them when you start getting about 120 millimeters below. So I have modified this with an E3D pancake stepper. As you can see right there, it's much smaller in profile. And I have also modified the sides here and here to have a little aluminum spacer so that you can have a little bit more of a guaranteed clearance. That space that I have in there right now is not enough for the non-pancake stepper. And in fact, without the spacers, it was still about 2 or 3 millimeters too short. So I had to do something, and this was a solution that I came up with. It works. It works very well. I have full height printing now. Another thing that the V3 has specifically is up here is where you mount the filament runout sensor. And as you can see here, I've modified my filament runout sensor too, and it sits right on top, right here. Now, the reason why I've done that is because that is as close to the direct drive as you can get. And that gives you a bit of a leeway, because when you run out of filament, instead of having this long rat's tail hanging off, it has to get in there before you start to have issues. And trust me, this motor is strong enough to give this tension. I've had this arm bend on me before. So there are some, so you've got some strength in that little motor right there. But let's take this assembly apart and start going over the Titan direct drive, huh? How about that? Yeah, yeah. Everybody's waiting for this. Now, write down, in case you're wondering, I'm going through a huge upgrade process on my printer. I've got these polycarbonate wheels, extra eccentric nuts, and this. So when I'm done upgrading this, you're probably not going to recognize it. Anyway, off to the painful task of dismantling this. Five bolts later. Oops. I don't see it. After all that is said and done, there it is right there. The direct drive and hot end assembly. The hot end assembly that spins inside of the direct drive. Not necessarily the best ideas. Now let's go over one of the first problems with this. And that is that there is a Bowden tube inside of here to about there. That causes all kinds of problems. That Bowden tube will expand after you heat up and will become gunked with filament and several other problems. And we're going to see that later. But we're going to go over the number one problem that I've seen with this direct drive first. And that involves this gear, or this axle. But you look at, focus, look at how black and filled with gunk this is. This bolt works as an axle at the same time as it works to hold this front cover in place. And that dark discoloration, to give a side-by-side comparison, that dark discoloration is because there is a lot of pressure in this spot right here. This is a bearing. You can barely see it in there. In fact, when I first got this, I didn't have one. I had to order that separately. You need to keep that lubed. There is a complementary bearing right there. You see it? Not much oil on my fingers. But that complementary bearing also needs to be lubed. And this is the axle, or this is the gear that the axle goes through. It gets dirty. It needs to be cleaned. And you should do it at least once a month. Let's go over that real quick. On this direct drive, got you a little bit closer to it. You can pop out this bearing if you really wanted to. You can see it gets cluttered with junk. Needs to be maintained and cleaned. Here are relative options for this. I do most of my lubrication with this. I do use this at times. Either or works just fine. It will not degrade the quality of the bearing. In fact, both of them work very well together. But I am going to drop both of those in there for being purchased at different times. They are awfully identical. And actually, I'm going to use this time. Now I'm going to coat them. That's it. Just cleaning the dirt, detritus off of this. There is no need to get too fancy with it. I will need to get a Q-tip to clean out the inside of this and the inside of that. One Q-tip later. Dip it in the oil. Rub it around. It will at the same time pull up the bad and leave the new. Take the Q-tip. Pull off the cotton tip. And there we go. Just use that to clean out any debris and detritus. And it'll pull out a lot of junk in there. Now let's do the same thing. Get some oil on there and send it through a couple times. Lastly, this. Same concept. I'm just gonna dip some oil right there and I'm just gonna wipe it around in there. This is strictly for the sake of cleaning. What I just did right there does not need to be lubed. The only reason why I'm using lube in there, just in case, runs a little hot, needs a little extra. So now these have been sitting there for a little while. I can tell that the oil is beginning to separate from whatever was in there before. Going back to my Q-tip, I'm gonna stir them around a little bit. It's been plenty of time, honestly. So I'm going to pull those out one at a time, put them on my towel, unless they roll off. Put it on my towel, and I'm going to wipe them and clean them. This is all the cleaning you want to do to it. In fact, that may be problematic because I have just removed a majority of the lubrication. So when I take this plastic piece and I put this bearing right back into it, that's all it takes. I'm going to grab my gear oil. I'm going to make sure one drop gets right on the top of that. Back to the Q-tip. The concept of wicking means it'll actually travel around by itself just fine, but sometimes you just want to help it. This is how it's going to go together. This part on the bottom and this part against the glass. So you could take this, stick it in there, and twist and spin. Make sure it feels that there's no resistance. You feel the bearings in there. They're turning. Look, that's what you want, see? That is as it should be. Duplicate it for this side. Put that on there. Now this is harder to tell, but I could feel the free spinning. There's no resistance on that. It's going very easily. It's exactly what you want. Now, as you know, I'm not going to pull this apart completely, or I'm not going to put it together completely because I am replacing this. But you want to put it on there and you want to feel it free spinning. And if you pinch with some force here, it should not stop it from moving. That's how these bearings work. Now, when I take that bearing, where'd it go? I keep calling it a bearing. When I take that axle, dirty boy here, and I put him back in through here with everything assembled, and I slide this all the way in there, I have put Loctite on these threads. Hasn't really helped. You can if you really want to. The only thing that helps is a decent tightening. Finger tight, that's it. Still runs well, and now it's going to do its job wonderfully. That is a bit of maintenance that everyone needs to do on their Titan at least once a month. Let's go over another problem on this machine. Yeah, I got a pair of channel locks for this. This is a coupler. This coupler's sole purpose is to give the Titan something to mount onto. Ah, there's a sign something's bad. I got a tiny pair of needle nose pliers right here. These are very handy. I like them a lot. It's just an inexpensive part of a tool kit. That's trash. And that is why I keep extra lengths hanging around. The rubbery nature of this means that it is very sticky. So dry cleaning it is the best idea. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Look at that. Let's see if I can get it in there. Look at that. Oh goodness, that is so nasty. Oh, that is icky. There's probably several different filament jobs. It looks like oil. Is not oil. Well, it's a petroleum product because of plastic, but it is not oil. So I'm going to go over it with you. There's one of two ways to clean this. Yep, one of two ways. I can introduce alcohol to the entire setup, or we could use my favorite method, flame. That is a choice, though I do not recommend that for everybody. All right, here's the preferred method. I say preferred, and I say it in air quotes. This is not necessarily preferred. This is just more or less, right now, given the state of things, this is probably going to be the easiest way to do this. And it's got filament stuck in there. Well, that's going to take the flame. This is a unique feature of this V6 clone that this series uses. Most of the time, the unit will thread into this. But this, as you can see, has a sleeve which also gets dirty. So everybody's going in except the heat block. See you in 5. There's still a little bit of goop in there, but it is not bad. Now I'm just going to clean this up with a towel. I know this must be the worst shoddy camera ship that you have ever seen. Oh my God, this dude can't make a camera work. Alcohol dissolves that oil really well. Don't do this. This is alcohol. You know, watch a cane flambe today. Let's go put this where it belongs. Away from here. You know it's about to happen. You may have seen this needle hanging around in your toolbox of Creality goodies. It is for jamming through the nozzle. Clearing it of any clogs. That is how you know you're clog free. Nee, 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 nee. You know, as it is right now, I could probably put this in the alcohol bath. This is the standard mess that you can expect when you deal with 3D printing. All right, so with that done, this can be put back together. To show you some of the places I'll be putting eccentric nuts, there is eccentric nuts here, but I'm gonna put one here as well. Also underneath the bed and up here. I know it's not needed right here, but I'm gonna start working on level. In fact, well, I guess I don't really need them there, do I? No, one here, one on the other side, 3 on the bed, and then I'll replace all the wheels. So that's 5 eccentric nuts out of the 9 I have. Yeah, those will be separate videos. You could subscribe if you want to see them, or wait for me to post on the forum again. You'll see this. Gosh, I really am thinking about what else to go over on this right now. If you have a CR10 a version 2, a version 3, I implore you to do this maintenance on this. By my beard, my long by my elongated beard, I implore you to do this. If you do not have both bearings or yours have gone bad, it costs $8 on Matter Hackers to have them replaced. There's also some Amazon generic bearings, as far as I know. That's where they get them from. There's nothing fancy about bearings. Yes, you can get very high quality bearings. Yes, you can get bad bearings, but when you can get 300 of them for the price of one good bearing, I think I can afford that. So, I guess the only thing I really want to tell you is that when you start developing prints in the long run, your prints are under extruding, you're getting holes, you're working with silk filaments. The list goes on. All of these things. You want to just stop, do the maintenance, and then continue. It works a world of wonders because you have no idea what the inside of your hot end looks like. And as you can see, mine, which was working wonderfully until I decided to print something new, and it just stopped working. This series has that one fatal flaw, and I think it ruins many good prints of having the Bowden tube inside. If I can get rid of that, this printer, I would not be doing this upgrade. I wouldn't. I promise you, it wouldn't be needed. The only reason why I'm doing the Hemera upgrade is because I need to get rid of that Bowden tube on the inside. It collects dirt. It collects, what is that? Sticky grease. Corn syrup from PLA, since that's all I use. Yeah, just, this is a day in life of a 3D printing dude. So expect this level of having to do at least once a month. You gotta. On the Titan, it is not a self-lubing set of bearings. You have to do this. They're not big, so they will need that lubing. They will get dry. The grease will dry. It doesn't necessarily evaporate, but it kind of does. It will go away and you'll have to do it again. These rollers, if you hear odd squeaks, you've got to lube your rollers. I have a big jar of lube here. It's not for personal use. It's for my dry boy here. I'm done. Goodbye.